Red Cedars. Should be somebody I know down in my country there.
Red Cedars. Man.
Hanson Ranch must be good with anything else.
Mr. Chairman, for some of our guests that may not, oh, they do have an agenda, I'm sorry, I was gonna say it was a, I think our Sutherland thing is at 10:15, isn't it?
I believe that's correct. Maybe we're gonna. Not covered in red, maybe.
What?
Have a good meeting up in West Point.
So, it was great.
How was your veteran county aid legislation received by the rest of the counties?
It went very well, very, very well. Anticipate any issues, but we'll just have to wait and see. I think it will be picked up. There was a lot of support. Tom did a great job
It's just-
presenting.
Common sense fix.
Yes. We had commissioners come up to us afterwards and share stories of challenges in their counties with the same. So I really think that we'll have a lot of support for it.
I could see Senator Brewer probably picking that up pretty easily.
That's what we've requested.
Particularly as he chairs that committee.
Yeah. I'll give a brief update at the end today, just to. The whole process. Interesting, if anybody ever has an opportunity to go. I learned a lot there.
we can transfer them over to our department that got cash.
Yeah.
The rest is bottom.
Morning, sir.
What's Trinity feeling?
Hey Becky, the county's tax exempt, correct? I noticed on this from CenturyLink that there, is this a different kind of? Not exempt on that? Okay. And that is just sales tax. Is that something new that they're doing on the occupation tax, or is I've just never seen it before? You know, I'll have to go back and look. I just never noticed it before.
Raw data. Give me a minute to compile all that. I had it on a spiffy interactive map. I literally had to click on every single term. Yeah, I did that on my trip to Omaha while my wife drove. Crawling, let me tell you.
It's not a long-term stay.
Get that one, would ya? $10,000. Okay, it is 9:15. We will recess as the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners and convene as the Lincoln County Board of Equalization, again abiding by the Open Meetings Act as amended. First item on this agenda is to approve the minutes regarding Lincoln County Board of Equalization meeting held on October 9, 2023.
Chairman, I would move to approve the minutes of the equalization meeting that was held 10/9/2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Weems.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye.
Hughley.
Aye.
Bruns.
Aye.
Woodruff.
All right. Next item is certificates of correction and refund as submitted by the county assessor. Good morning.
Good morning. Julie Singer, Lincoln County Assessor.
Looks like I have two in front of me. Is that correct?
Yep, and they are confession of judgment orders from Turk. One was for 2021 and one is for 2022.
Okay, the first one is for North Platte Hospitality, Inc. This is Turk Final Order and Decision for 2022. Case number 22C0532. It looks like the amount is $62,142.06, correct? That was an appeal that North Platte Hospitality made to Turk, correct?
Correct. We were able to be taken through to get a physical inspection of everything to see all the water damage and stuff that was done throughout. So that's why the adjustment was made. Prior to that, we weren't able to be in there.
Yeah, okay. Colleagues? Let's see, I have two of these. Should we do them jointly or separate?
Please do them separately.
Okay.
Again, what was it, North Platte Hospital?
North Platte Hospitality, Inc.
Chairman, I would move to approve the Board of ruling on North Platte Hospitality per Turk decision.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. Why weren't we able to get in there?
I don't know if during the protest time, when they actually protested the property in June, if they did it late enough, I can't honestly tell you the time frame, but I do know when they filed the original protests and stuff, we weren't able to get in. So, like I said,
You mean
I-
time-wise on our part, or they didn't allow us to get in?
Like I said, that, Joe, I don't know for sure, I just know we were not
Oh, okay.
in there to do a physical inspection during the
Thank you.
protest.
And they did test this, correct?
Yeah, in 2022.
This is the one that we discussed just a few months ago when we did the confession of.
Correct, yeah, we came in front of you with the
Yeah.
confession. Mhm.
This is one of the soft bits to settle after I had discussion with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
After personal inspection and such.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Weems.
Aye.
Hughley.
Aye.
Wheeler. Bruns.
Aye.
Woodruff.
All right. Okay, the second one is West Tabor Ranch Apartments LLC. This is also a Turk final decision in order for 2021, case number 21C0035. And this is in the amount of $1,749.60. Tell us, again, we've gone over this before, what the conditions were, Julie?
I don't believe they had provided any income information to us, so we were able to do, or we did cost approach figures, valuations on them. But I do think when they filed to Turk, they did provide some more income information to us to let us rework a value based on their income. And so that was why the adjustment was made there, so.
Okay. Again, in the amount of $1,749.60.
Yes.
Colleagues?
Chairman, I'd make a motion, we authorize you to sign the certificate of correction and refund concerning the Tabor Ranch LLC property.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Hughley.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye.
Weems.
Aye.
Bruns.
Aye.
Woodruff.
All right. Thank you, Julie. Next item on this agenda is adoption of resolution number 2023-25, setting the 2023 tax levies for all political subdivisions headquartered in Lincoln County.
All the budgets were received, these were the levies that we calculated, as best we could, we match it with what is on their budget forms. We will send those out to all those political subdivisions also to verify that is the correct total. And we will also certify those to the treasurer, the assessor, and all the adjoining counties that would be impacted by, like the college, the ESU, so.
This is the last major step for the budget season for all local political subdivisions.
Yes.
Yes, finally.
I do have to do a couple billings for the joint public hearing yet, but other than that, we are, yes, done.
By the way, do we know what our billing is gonna be for that,
Yeah, it was
cat, dog and
just
pony show out there?
shy of $10,000, I believe.
Government at work.
Pink postcards, Joe.
Okay, so, colleagues, you have the information in front of you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt resolution number 2023-25, setting the 2023 tax levies for all political subdivisions headquartered in Lincoln County and ratify it thereof.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Bruns,
Aye.
Hughley,
Aye.
Weems,
Aye.
Wheeler,
Aye.
Woodruff.
Aye.
I do.
Let's go back over here. There's that one. Okay, next item on this agenda is notice of valuation change is submitted by the county assessor.
Morning, Julie.
Good morning
Steiner,
again.
Lincoln County Assessor. Yes, this is a property that used to be exempt. It was a church previously, and it sold. And if an exempt entity sells to a non-exempt entity before levy date, then it becomes taxable again, retroactive back to January 1. So we are putting a value back on this property since it is no longer owned by a church and is just owned by an individual. Which they actually, that an individual bought it, they kind of changed the name and put it in a corporation name called the Old Church Hall because they wanted to do, they're not gonna use it for church services, they would have liked to have done, like parties and stuff like that. No, I think that was shot down too by city council. But that, the name is still in the Old Church Hall, but they are not using it for church purposes. I don't want that to, look funny on there that we're taking the exemption away where it does say it was owned by a church. Scott and Melinda Standage changed that to that name.
Okay. And the address on here is not the actual address of the facility, but their personal residence, I'm gonna guess.
Their LLC address, I think, is.
Because the
Yeah, that's
church,
their
because the
mailing
church
address.
is on Anna.
And then in Buffalo, it's 2200 Anna Avenue.
Okay, so this puts back the land at, $45,317 and the building at $248,800, correct?
Correct.
Not sure that's what's God intended to happen with that, but there it is.
This is what the legislature intended to have.
Yes.
Doing a county board change like this, when you make your decision and stuff, they do get 30 days to protest that valuation. So if they aren't, they'll be notified of this new valuation, and then if they are not happy, then they still get the opportunity to protest and
Protest to
file a
you or to
Turk.
Turk?
No, they would protest to the county board first,
Okay.
and then if they don't agree to that decision, then they have the ability to file then on to Turk
Okay.
later.
Colleagues?
The buyer-seller letter did say that they had an appraisal done for like $359,000, so we're hoping that he won't scream too much at $294,000, so.
Yep.
Chairman, I would move to approve the valuation change on parcel 30010.00. The Old Church Hall LLC, owned by Scott, is it Scott Standage?
Mhm.
Mr. and Mrs. Standage, that has been put back on the tax roll, with the land being valued at $45,317 and the buildings at $248,800, for a total value of $294,117.
Let's second that.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
I'm gonna add one more thing, it's not just the church, there is a parsonage also on this same property. So it is the church and the parsonage, and he is renting that out already, the house part, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so it does have two buildings
Okay,
at that value.
thank you for that information. Any other discussion? Please.
Weems,
Aye.
Bruns,
Aye.
Hughley,
Aye.
Wheeler,
Aye.
Woodruff.
Aye. Thank you, Julie.
Yep, thank you.
Next item is motor vehicle tax exemption application as submitted by the county treasurer. Good morning.
Morning, Alex Gertulo, Lincoln County Treasurer.
Looks like we have one in front of us, is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we accept the application for exemption by the American National Red Cross for one Ram 3500 ProMaster. It's a cargo van used for charitable purposes and recommended for approval by the Lincoln County Treasurer.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hughley.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye.
Weems.
Aye.
Bruns.
Aye.
Woodruff.
Aye. Okay, is there any other business to come before the Lincoln County Board of Equalization? Hearing none, we will adjourn at 9:27 as the Lincoln County Board of Equalization and reconvene as the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. The next item on this agenda is to discuss and consider, good morning. Discuss and consider Operation Greenlight for Veterans, November 6th through 12th of 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I asked for this to be put on the agenda. I'm also going to invite our Veteran Service Officer, Tom Gann, up to give us the details of Operation Greenlight for Veterans.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Tom. How are
My name is
you?
Tom Gann, and I'm the VSO, as Michaela mentioned, Veteran County Service Officer, and I am here in support and requesting that the county support Operation Greenlight. So it's just a simple support, showing Greenlight the week of Veterans Day week, Veterans Day week. Green light for the county. I think the counties have supported that in the past, right? Am I correct on that?
Last year was the first year.
Last year was the
It was the
first
first
year.
year.
Looked pretty impressive, too.
So I'm just here to advocate for that.
I brought that actually from the national meeting in Denver. I was made aware of that program. Yeah, we unanimously supported that last year. I see no reason we won't again.
Okay, that would be
Ongoing.
wonderful.
What is the procedure for getting this accomplished?
Well, so it's building and grounds, literally just changing out light bulbs, and they purchased all those light bulbs, those high efficiency LED bulbs this, last year when we did this last year. And I know that this is on here for specific dates, but I'd make a request that, we just authorize the county supporting Operation Greenlight for veterans every year during the week of Veterans Day. And that way, this doesn't have to come before us. I think it's just well known that we support our veteran community here in Lincoln County, and this is something that we should do on a continual basis every year.
Concur wholeheartedly. I'm just not sure that if we can actually do that and bind other boards, because of legal language, but I totally support 100% what you said, so if we can, I would agree.
NACO did put out a press release recommending that they have a toolkit that they will share with us that I can forward to Tammy if she doesn't already have it. But their request is that the county ask for a resolution, just as a show of support to our veterans. And I can work with the Building and Ground Department. Booker was unable to join us this morning for personal reasons. So with that said, would you all support us doing a resolution to show our support? Tyler, to make it easy on you, NACO did share a template for a resolution.
I'm reasonably certain we did it by resolution last year.
Yeah, we.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I can do another one.
Please do.
I just feel like it's great for us to have this conversation and let the veterans who selflessly served and sacrificed for all of us, that we do support
Yes.
them all the time, but especially during this week.
And I think that we can, in that resolution, we can do it every year. And if a board that succeeds us wants to change that, they can pass another resolution.
That is very true, but does it not give more recognition if we talk
It may.
about it each year?
That's a good point. and a
I
fair
think
point.
that's the intent of the
Just
press
make-
release that was
make-
put out.
Make sure everybody's aware of why those lights are green.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with
Good
that.
Okay? So, I think we need a motion to have Tyler put this resolution together, correct? Nope.
So,
Put it together and it'll be back here next week.
Just make your
Make a motion?
you know how to do it. You've worked on this hard. Just do what you need to do here.
Do I need to make a motion? Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the Lincoln County Commissioners draft a resolution in support of green light for veterans and that the courthouse be lit up green November 6th through 12th of 2023.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Wheeler.
Aye.
Hughley.
Aye.
Weems.
Aye.
Bruns.
aye.
Woodruff.
Aye. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, guys. Commissioners, you guys have a great rest of your day.
You as
Thanks,
well.
Tom.
Okay, next item on our agenda is Visit North Platte, presentation of first annual audit report. Come forward, please. State your names and sign in, please.
Yeah, I got that.
She's bossing you around again.
I know, darn it.
Where it goes.
Lisa Burke, I'm the executive director for Visit North Platte.
Brad Heisel, I'm the chair for Visit North Platte. Good morning, everyone.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, and I got to see this document last meeting about 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
It's quite agreeable what I was shown.
Yeah.
So would you like to present that for us, please?
Yeah, I will do that. Visit North Platte contracted with RJ Meyer to do our first annual audit report. This was for fiscal year starting July 2022 through June 2023.
Do you have a copy that we can?
I do,
review?
you probably would like those. I'm sitting here on them, aren't I?
Here, I can do that if you want to continue.
Okay. So all of that information is there, their letters. RJ Meyer found that there were no irregularities within our current accounting processes. They were very pleased with our cooperation and the findings that they found for the first audit of Visit North Platte.
Very good.
So if you guys, oh, yeah.
A non-profit. The profit, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's
Two negatives,
something,
you're right.
I don't know what that means. I did not catch that one. So if you have any questions.
Any highlights that we got a few minutes if you wanted to touch upon any highlights of your first year as a non-profit?
A nonprofit. Our revenue was about $1,337,000. That included grants. We had about $27,000 worth of grants. We won't see that again. One of those grants was a COVID grant that we received from the Nebraska Tourism Commission for about $20,000 that, unfortunately, we won't see one of those big ones again, but those and lodging tax proceeds.
Lodging tax proceeds were roughly what percentage over the previous year?
They were probably about 7% over. And so far this year, we're tracking just about 3% up, so we'll see if that carries through.
And I think it would be nice to specify that your funding, other than grants, is totally from lodging tax?
Correct.
Nothing from the county, correct?
Correct. It is 100% from lodging tax proceeds, sports events, registrations. We make a little bit off of bus groups that we book as well. Interest, which is new to us, we get some of the interest off of our funds, and some sponsorships as well.
So do you feel like the transition that your entity made gave you the results you were hoping
Yes,
for?
yes, most definitely, yes. It's been very smooth and very good for us,
A good change?
yes.
When we went through this change, and we were having the discussions, it was important for this board to make sure that, all of Lincoln County operations were being supported. Can you
Right.
highlight some of the things that you've done, not just in North Platte, but countywide?
We've given improvement fund, or awarded improvement fund grants to Wallace. They have come in and did a Veterans Memorial. It's still in process, but we've given those funds. And Sutherland, of course, also as well. Brady always receives funds for their annual Brady Days. And every single one of the communities that have festivals or events like that annually, we always reach out to them and remind them that they can apply for grants to help to operate that, promote it. If they have any special acts, we can help them with the funding for that too, so.
And I would say one of the bigger attractions that we really do help to fund, that is countywide, is the museum.
Yeah.
That's something that we are really passionate about and really try to assist with.
I know I appreciate that. I would
Yes.
Yeah,
think
we,
I speak for
that was
the
an emphasis of mine, that we kick money back to that, because it's such a good asset.
Yeah.
And they need the funds, as you know.
Yes, yep, this year, I think it was around 15,000 for a roof-ish. And then they always ask for funding to help with their brochure and their brochure distribution throughout the season, so people are aware of where they are, so.
And a shout out to Jim and his crew out there on that roof. They did a lot of the physical work themselves. And when he comes in for a request, he's got his request down to the penny, and he doesn't spend a penny more than that.
That sounds like Jeff.
Yep.
Very thorough.
He runs a great ship out there, and we are fortunate to have him, and,
Yeah, this community is very, very, very lucky to have an individual like Jim Griffin. He is a huge, huge asset for that museum.
yes, he is.
Do you see other counties across the state looking at what we've done here in Lincoln County with this transition?
They're starting to look at that. Haven't had any requests to help anybody through the process yet, but us, lots of questions.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Lisa or Brad? Thank you very much for
Yes,
your
thank
report.
you.
Yes, thank you guys for your time and your support.
Betcha. Morning. Good morning. How you doing?
There.
Weems and Brown. Hughley, Fuller.
Oh, I am right. Okay, I'll touch it right now.
For who? Oh, I didn't write it down. Yeah, he's
Hostile.
probably can't read it.
It is 9:45. Our next agenda item is to discuss and consider automated license plate readers agreement with the state of Nebraska for the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. Good morning.
Yes, sir, as always. Back at the end of the previous budget year, we purchased 5 flock cameras, which is the same company that the police department uses. They're stationary cameras that runs license plates through the National Crime Information Computer for stolen, wanted, missing, homicide suspects. It's also something that we can go back and look at for past times. Nobody's sitting there watching these cameras on a day-to-day basis, but if we have need, we can go back and look and see who's traversed past this camera. We kind of drug our feet on the installation because I'd heard there was a processing or permitting process being implemented by the state so that we could place these cameras on state equipment, i.e. light posts, and look at state highways. Before this was in place, we could only put them on village or county equipment or look at village, county roads. We really wanted to get the state highways so we could place them in Sutherland, Hershey, Brady, and look at Highway 30 because that's the main thoroughfare through these towns and it will catch a lot more vehicles. So that permitting process is in front of you this morning. The very first page, and this paperwork all came from the state, is a resolution to be done by the county to allow somebody to sign an agreement with the state of Nebraska that spells out our responsibilities, our liabilities, and same for the state. And then I have to go, I worked with the flock company Friday, looking at locations, and I have to go map those and fill out a separate application to occupy the right-of-way for each location, and the state will take that and approve or deny it. And the installation is literally, I think, 3 band clamps around a pole, and then the rest is all solar and cells. So pretty simple to install, but they come out and do it for us, and then we have 1 camera that we would be able to move around on county property or equipment as we need to.
So do I recall that we had set up the these readers previously, approved these readers?
Correct. And we have a policy in place that's been approved by the sheriff and the merit commission, so the policy's there, we just literally dragging our feet, so we only have them come out once and install them where we really want them and be done with it.
Okay, super.
That policy didn't, I think, we touched upon the privacy issue, that
That's
the
all
scope
addressed.
of these is very narrow.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that was what gave, I think, a couple of us some heartburn, back when we initially discussed this, is whether or not somebody was gonna be manning this, if it was gonna be preemptive.
So,
The civil liberties aspect of these things, it gave me a little bit of pause.
and we have the policy that's in place, and we could submit that if you guys wanna look at it. But it addresses misuse, it addresses the proper use. Obviously, any vehicle that comes through that license plate is being wanted on a nationwide basis, it's gonna hit our cameras, and we're gonna know it's in Hershey or Sutherland and which direction it's going, so we could get out there and try to catch them. But it's also, especially in this recent rash in North Platte and Hershey, of people going through cars and spray painting stuff over the weekend in town here. That's something, if we know something happened in Hershey last night, we go back and look at license plates that went through that area. So
Okay.
I can guarantee none of us have time to sit there and, I don't even know if there's an option to sit there and watch it live. It's purely, it hits, you get a notification that, hey, this plate just hit this camera at this time, and this is what it's wanted for.
But then if you wanna go back and do some research on a particular time at a particular camera, you
Right.
can do that.
And we would have locally the ability to say, hey, we have a local warrant that's not internationally for this person, we could put that license plate in there, and it would do the same thing.
Sounds
So-
like a great useful tool to have in your toolbox.
It definitely helps us get almost an extra guy, and it's an excellent investigative tool. The police department could sit here and tell you stories of shootings that they've solved or got a suspect by going back and looking.
Super. So, go ahead.
You ready for resolution?
I was gonna ask what our next step is.
I'd make a motion that we approve resolution 2023-26, which is a resolution authorizing the chairman to sign the automated license plate agreement with the state of Nebraska for the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department.
Second.
You guys wanna see that?
I would like to review it real quick.
They should say office sheriff, not department.
It's funny you say that, because that come out and said department all over it, and I kicked it back, said, can we change that to
I-
office?
Yeah,
It's just little things, but
I'm learning.
We'll review some of the information Lieutenant Dannon was right with you.
and I can tell you, our policy mirrors the police department's, because we'll be able to share information. They'll get our hits, we'll get their license plate hits. So either agency in this county puts something in there, we will all get notified of it.
Good.
Have they been using theirs for a while now?
Absolutely. I know they just got a stolen car at Walmart last week, and it just hit the camera by runs, and go find it.
Nice.
I'd like, when you get a chance here in the near future, to send me the copy of that policy.
Sure.
That dictates the use of this system.
Sure.
Just for my review.
Okay. Colleagues, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please.
Hughley.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye.
Weems.
Aye.
Bruns.
Aye.
Woodruff.
Aye. Thank you, Lieutenant Dan.
Thank you.
Ooh, no, I didn't. Morning, Tristan.
Morning, Commissioners.
How you doing?
Better now that I'm here.
That makes one of you. I mean, that makes two of us.
Mr. Chairman.
We're always glad to see you, Tristan.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheeler.
You're welcome. It's hard to see, but you can see that. Rebar.
It is 9:55. Excuse me. Our next agenda item is discuss and consider use of ARPA funds for the new GIS system for the Lincoln County Surveyor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you state your name and sign in for us, please?
Yes, Bonnie Edwards, Lincoln County Surveyor.
Could you tell us what your request involves with this GIS system?
Yes. I was just going to ask for your consideration to use the ARPA funds for a GPS system for the county surveyor. That would include a new base and rover for the GPS. I've got a couple of quotes here. It also includes a new tablet and a new bridge, which is the thing that sends a signal to the GPS from wireless. So I've got two quotes. One is $29,901, and the other one is $40,873. I can pass these around if you would like. The quote includes everything. The last time the county surveyor bought any GPS was in 2016, so that's 7 years old. And our tablet was in April of 2017, so that's 6.5 years old. So it might not sound old, but it's all electronic and everything, electronic, just like having a little computer, that's pretty old. We have trouble hooking things up to the wireless. And I'm not really sure if all of you guys know this. I did have a private survey business and I sold it. So for the past 20 years, since 2003, whenever we've had problems with the county surveyor stuff, I've used my personal stuff. I don't have any equipment anymore, so I won't be able to help the county out with that.
Commissioner Bruns, you had brought this topic up once previously. Do you have some comments?
Yeah, so in conversation with you, Mr. Chairman, I know that Bonnie had allocations in her initial budget request that we had asked all the departments to trim, and Bonnie's budget was slim and really didn't even allow for the cuts that she did make. And so I know that her budget this next fiscal year is extremely tight. She doesn't have any discretionary funds. And this seemed like an appropriate one-time expenditure that made sense for the use of the ARPA dollars. And so just in a brief conversation that I had with Bonnie, we figured we'd propose it to the board for all of us to just consider and have further discussion. And so that's what she's doing here today, so. The equipment that you had, I didn't catch that first number first.
Oh, 29,901. And that includes $5,000 trade-in for everything that we have.
Bonnie, there's a pretty big difference between the two quotes. Are they comparable equipment? or is it-
Actually, the one that's the least expensive would be my first choice
Can I
of it.
make a motion so we can have our discussion?
But would you like me to pass this around?
Just make a motion.
Yeah, I have a question first, Joe. We have two quotes here, we normally need to have three, correct?
If I may inquire,
Please do.
Bonnie, did you attempt to secure 3 informal quotes?
You know, I did not, and the reason I did not is I went with Transit Works. You probably don't even know this, but Transit Works has a repeater station on top of the Department of Roads building. So what that does, it's a network across the state, and they have a subscription charge. It's like $1,500 a year to use that. So wherever you're at, like in the county, I might connect to something at Gothenburg or here. Or if I'm east or west, I might be connected to something that's at Ogallala. But they don't charge us that subscription fee for having that base station on top of the County Roads Department building. So I did not go to any other company, because if we went to a different company, we wouldn't be able to have that.
Makes it
Access.
unique.
So then the board has to make a determination on this.
Sounds as though that is a unique circumstance such that the three bids would, the two bids would be adequate, but I'll refer to legal counsel.
Well, the one bid can be sufficient if it's unique and not competitive. And it sounds to me like we go with Transit Works,
Right.
simply because that comes with some functionality that none of the other brands have.
That was gonna be my question. Functionality doesn't exist without that,
Right,
correct?
right.
And that happens to be the lower bid, eh?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we could look at a different company, but then we would have that added expense every year of at least $1,500 to use that subscription.
Okay, I got my question answered, Joe, your turn.
No, I was just going to make a motion so we could have formal discussion, that's all. If that's in order, I'll do that.
Please do.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we authorize use of ARPA funds for a new GIS system for the county surveyor's office.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Just for clarification, it's a GPS system. I think we have a typo on our agenda that
Yes.
says GIS, but
Right.
it's a GPS.
GPS.
Does that change your motion at all?
Probably does.
Do you want to make that change?
I would like to amend my motion to say GPS rather than GIS.
Is your second in line with that too?
It is.
Okay.
Agreed.
Any other discussion?
And this includes the hardware, the software, and also acknowledging the previous discussion about the uniqueness and the connectability. So that's the reason for that motion. And actually, my motion was just so that we could have some more formal discussion, but whatever.
And to reiterate comments from Commissioner Bruns, your budget was pretty slim to start with, so trimming it was almost
I have
not
four,
possible.
yeah, I will have $4,000 in my budget for the entire year after payroll.
Yeah. So this is a very useful tool that would be of benefit to all of Lincoln
Right,
County.
and if something would happen that we absolutely can't use it, we just wouldn't be able to do anything.
Bonnie, what do you do with your previous equipment?
For my personal,
No,
or for,
the county's
oh,
equipment.
they would trade it in. They would give us $5,000 for trade-in.
Now that
Just-
5,000 is reflected in the 29
Yes,
already?
yes, it is.
So
Yeah, it
just-
was 34,901.
Just to also point out, you do a lot of work with the county roads department, correct?
We do, we stake out right away for them.
So this piece of equipment, this technology is gonna be used for a variety of different things to the benefit of Lincoln County, and I think it's an appropriate expenditure.
And I'm not really sure how many know that I also do the floodplain for Lincoln County. So in order to set elevations, we use the GPS for
Okay.
that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments, or questions?
Does this have a SAM number, UEI?
I did not find that out.
That's
We-
something we need to consider from now on.
We need to have SAM numbers, whatever SAM stands for use,
UIE.
for dispensing out ARPA funds.
For vendors.
Okay,
We just found that out.
okay. And I know you told me, I just didn't find out if they have it.
Some of them are kind of difficult to find actually in the system, so it might take some searching, or they might know if they
Okay,
have one.
so I need to contact them. Okay,
And if they don't have a SAM, they did go through the application process for one?
If that's where we want to purchase from, yes, that's my understanding.
Okay? We still in line? Any other comments? Tyler, can we make this approval for this disbursement of funds pending the SAM number?
Sounds like the clerk would very much like you to do that, yes. That's
Okay.
gonna simplify her life
So with
considerably.
the auditor.
Okay, sounds good. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll.
Hughley. Weems.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye.
Bruns.
Aye.
Woodruff.
Aye. Thank you, Bonnie.
thank you.
They will know if they were done.
You'll be back in touch with Becky in that
Yes.
regard. Thank you very much. Okay, it is 10:05. Our next agenda item is to discuss and consider dispatch services agreement with the city of North Platte. Would like to,
They're not here, so I'll fill in.
what's that?
They're not here, so I'll fill in.
Okay,
Chief is out there.
Is he?
Yes. Chief?
come forward and please state your names, please.
Jerome Kramer, Sheriff.
Steve Reeves?
Gentlemen doing well this morning?
Absolutely.
So, can you tell us where we are on this agreement for 2023, 2024?
Chief would love to.
Chief Reeves, would
Well,
you,
you put him on the hot
I hear that you would like to do this. Would you go ahead?
Well, the agreement you have before you is the one that you tabled, and I don't remember what the date was, but back in August or September. So I really don't have any update on the agreement itself, I guess.
Okay?
Mr. Chairman, as requested, both Commissioner Weems and I, along with the sheriff, met with the chief, and I believe, was it Lieutenant Shea?
Yeah.
Lieutenant
Yep.
Shea. Along with, I believe, Mayor Callaher, there may have been other people there, and discussed the agreements, and I think the conclusion was that we would approve the agreement that we have before us with the request for the additional amount. that between now and the signing of the next agreement, that we would get together and look at, see if we couldn't get some kind of a maximum amount every year or something to that effect that would tie down not only what services we're getting, but maybe make it a little clearer what's in the agreement. And Kent, please. follow
Yeah,
up.
let me lend some perspective for the rest of the board. One key point that I either heard and didn't listen to, or didn't hear, or didn't gather. Essentially, what's gone on, colleagues, is this started out as a cost share, identifying 2 people. And then I think the price jump in 3 budgets ago reflected the addition of the benefits for those folks. And because the basis of this was personnel and not a service, as the sheriff would prefer, and I probably would prefer to identify it that way, but it's not, it wasn't structured that way. So what's evolved, and Chief, you can correct me where I'm wrong. What's evolved essentially is the chief has identified a need to expand to 15 staffers to better utilize the shift differential and keep his people from running aground, so to speak. So when we discussed this in detail and said, you know, that the sticker shock is difficult, the chief clarified that this is not something that he intends to do off the cuff, so to speak, even though it wasn't really off the cuff to begin with. In his defense, he did a lot of thought, put a lot of thought in this, but essentially what's happened here is in his system, he is expanding to 15 to utilize the 3-shift process. And ongoing does not anticipate a huge jump in our expense from year to year. It'll be more of a predictable cost of living or whatever we would sit down and hammer out. Because our perspective was, the sheriff's was, we want to buy a service, we don't care how you run your operation. So that was where a lot of the, you know, the apples to oranges thing evolved, I think. But Sheriff, is that pretty accurate?
That is, like you said, from the very beginning, back in the late 80s, early 90s, that's how they came up with a base for what do we pay the police department, and they used base salary. Well, things evolved, they needed more staff, and quite frankly, with the higher demand on law enforcement and fire and rescue, we found ourselves without service because the dispatchers were busy already attending to 911 calls. So my guys were sitting there with no dispatch service, so there was only one way to cure that, and Steve did a evaluation and showed that 2 more people would probably help with that, and we would get a better service when we need service. In law enforcement, nothing happens or everything happens at the same time. So it was needed by everybody, and again, he was adding 2, and we're sharing that. It's not a one-sided deal. The city's picking up a dispatcher, or the cost of a dispatcher, we're picking up the cost of a dispatcher, and he'll expand his staff with this agreement. And pretty much, this should put a cap on staff, and meet the needs of both agencies for years to come, and with that in mind, he increases his budget every year through the FOP based on cost of living, just like Lincoln County does. So basically, even without the COLA written into the agreement, like we had talked about, it's gonna be just by nature. That's the way it'll happen every year, is a COLA for us and them, correct?
Correct. I mean, the first, whenever, I don't know how many years we've been under the agreement, but the adjustment was always just based on the wage. There was never any adjustment to any of the health insurance, any other benefits, specialty pays, any of that stuff. So that resulted in the increase a couple of years ago. And now this increase is to add 2 people to the staff. And again, I don't see us adding any more people. Can I say that definitively? No, but I would not think in the near future, or at least as long as I'm gonna serve in this capacity, we'll probably be adding any more, so.
Well, the one that you added on our behalf, we don't want insurance, you can knock that off there.
I don't see that in the contract here, so maybe we won't go down that tangent, eh? Anything else that you wish to add, Chief Reeves?
I don't, that pretty much summarizes our request.
Thank you for working with us on this.
Yep.
I appreciate the efforts that you put in there. You as well, Sheriff. And I would echo that to Commissioners Hughley and Weems. This has not been an easy process, but we have come to an agreement, and I think this is an agreement that will work for all of us. Thank you. So, colleagues. What's your pleasure?
Chairman, I would move to approve the dispatch services agreement as written before us today with the city of North Platte for 911 services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Weems,
Aye.
Hughley,
Aye.
Wheeler,
Aye.
Bruns,
Aye.
Woodruff.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we'll look to advertise, we'll probably start advertising those 2 jobs this week, so. We'll have them up and running by the first of the year.
Okay.
Super.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it is 10:15. Our next agenda item is to discuss and consider closing of the Sutherland North Bridge for project construction. Jason, would you have some information you'd like to?
Did you have Kevin, did you tell him to call him? Yes. He is waiting patiently by the phone.
Okay.
Set up the call here.
Are you gonna make the call or is? Okay, good.
Once we decide we want to call him.
Okay.
Jason Schultz, Lincoln County Highway Superintendent.
Jason, would you share some information with us that has brought us to this point?
So yeah, I guess this has been about the construction contract for the Sutherland Bridge replacement. So I guess what's brought us to this point, I guess, is we're having some doubt about what's in the documents, what's in the agreements, and I guess how to proceed forward. So far, everything, and we can get Kevin on the line. He said he was willing to come in and join the conversation as well with Miller and Associates. So if you would like to do that, we can sure get him on the line to try to answer any questions anybody might have.
And Kevin is the engineer on the project, correct?
Yes, correct. He was the gentleman sitting here when we got all the bids.
Yes.
Yep.
Let's see if I remember how it was.
Really? You have to hit 9, yes, I remember now. It's not gonna be my day.
What's Kevin's last name? Petros, P-E-T-R-O-S-S. Thank you. Miller and Associates. Yes.
Miller and Associates, this is Andrea. How can I help you?
Andrea, can I speak to Kevin Petros, please?
Who should I say is calling?
Tyler Voltmer, Deputy County Attorney here in Lincoln County.
One moment, please.
you guys get a copy of this?
I don't have a color copy.
Kevin had sent this. To show some illustration of what we discussed.
This Kevin?
Kevin, Tyler Voltmer here in Lincoln County, and as we discussed last week, I've got you live in the county board meeting with the commissioners, and behind me are some residents of Sutherland.
Very good.
Morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
Kevin, this is, good morning, this is Chairman Jerry Woodruff. I remember you being at that, at our meeting when we accepted the bids. There seems to be some confusion in regards to construction schedule and process of this project. Would you enlighten us on what was bid for this project?
Certainly. So this project is removing the existing bridge and installing a six-span, 550-foot bridge to replace it directly to the east of the existing structure. I sent to Jason Schultz an exhibit showing the position of the new bridge relative to the old bridge. And on there, there's a heavy blue line and a heavy red line. And those lines represent the temporary berms that the Corps is allowing us to put in the river to allow the construction of the structure or steel work platform, which is the more typical way that they like to see these done. So from this, you could see that we've had to skew the roadway a little bit to move the bridge just a little bit to the east there. And to get that 20 feet of separation between the two, we had to go nearly a third of a mile up the road each direction in order to make that happen and meet design standards. So the reason that we did that, if you try to build directly over the existing structure, you can run into issues with driving pile. So we always like to come off a little bit to put the new structure on so that we don't have to deal with that. But if you try to set far apart from the existing structure, you can see very quickly you wind up redoing many miles of roadway, and it adds dramatically to the cost of the structure. So these temporary berms that have to be put in to allow for the construction of the new structure make it pretty much impossible to leave the existing structure up and open during the construction.
Okay. Did the bid documents, the request for proposals, did that proposal reflect that information?
Well, the plan certainly showed it. The bid documents did not have any language with regards to whether the existing structure was to be left open or left standing or any of that. There was nothing about that in the bid documents or the specification.
Chairman, may I ask a question?
Please do.
Kevin, this is Joe Hughley. I have a longtime county commissioner, and kind of one that started this process many years ago with another company. And at that point in time, many of the people that are in this room today have friends and neighbors and or parents that weren't in attendance at that time. And it was very important that the bridge, and I confirmed this morning with the then road superintendent, Jim Hawks. It was extremely important that that bridge remain open during construction of the new bridge. We, in fact, I couldn't remember the name of the company, but it was a archaeological photography company we hired to come out and do an extensive photo documentation so that once the new bridge was constructed and traffic was open, the old bridge would be taken down. And according to Manelli Wagner's design, and I realize that's not yours, the bridge needed to come down after construction due to the hydraulic flow of the river. And if the old bridge upstream were ever to come down, if it got some tree branches during flooding or something, they were afraid that it could have a tendency to possibly take out the bridge downstream and to the east, just as you have it designed, which is downstream and to the east. So I guess my question is, I'm not sure, and I haven't been probably involved with this for 15 or 20 years, but I'm wondering why we went away from the concept of specifically leaving that open, because we, again, are designing downstream. And I also don't recall that the previous, because it never got to quite this point, whether we did cofferdams with sheet piling versus berming to reroute the river, I don't recall. But that's my question, is when did that become not a priority in this process? And I think that if I'm not mistaken, when we first started working with Millers, that was Stan Johnson, I believe.
Yes. That was many, many years before I started with the company. Since I've been involved with this project, which has been about 2 years now, it was always my understanding, and Gary Steele, who was here prior and is no longer,
It's a matter of when it was to come out, that's the question.
it is my understanding it was to come out before of the new bridge.
Do you remember if that was a request by Lincoln County?
I do not recall. I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Joe, and I think maybe something to add on that point. The only thing I was able to locate in some of the old documents was the original design sketch that I had found from, I believe it was back in 2005, so 18 years ago. And there is a note on there that says the contractor may close the roadway to all but local traffic. County will provide a detour route if deemed necessary. So, that was the only thing I really found that I thought was relevant to
Yeah, so it would
conversation. So
remain the local
it might-
traffic,
yeah,
these folks.
yes.
That was a 2005 document.
Yeah, well, yeah, it does say local traffic, so that would mean, you still have access to any residences in the area, just not, and then there would be a detour route if the contractor chose to close it, I guess, so.
I suppose my frustration's coming in is through this process since I've been on the board, which has been the past few years, this has been a specific question and concern that I've raised, asking how long is this bridge gonna stay open? And it's always been relayed to me in these conversations that it would be open up until the last portion of construction of the new bridge. And I'm wanting to know where the breakdown in that information has occurred. Because this is an issue that impacts my district in particular, but all of Lincoln County pretty significantly. And in many ways, other than just the construction of a road. I mean, we're talking public safety, we're talking schools, we're talking our number one industry, we're talking a lot of different things. And so that's the chief question I have. And then the second question I have is, how firm is this plan? Is this something that can be altered? And if it can't be altered, my third question is gonna be, what's the temporary workaround that we can find? Because I know that we can always find a workaround to allow for a passage of residents in this area, not to have to traverse all the way to Hershey and then traverse all the way back to get where they need to go. So those are the questions that I have that I'm seeking answers on.
And feeding right into that, again, Commissioner Hughley, Kevin, I'm surprised that there was no specific language. I'm not an engineer. I do work with several engineers that addressed how this and when this bridge was to be removed. So if you didn't specifically say in there that it had to be removed prior to the construction of the new bridge, how did that come about? As you being the quarterback for the county, how did that come about?
Sorry, could you restate that question?
Sure. If I understand in the bid documents, in the formal bid documents that your company put out, I may have misunderstood, but I thought you said there was no specific language as to when that bridge was to come out. That being the case, which is usually unusual because there's usually very specific language as to directing the contract to come out, because that's, that affects a bid. So not having that language in there, why could I not construe that bridge wasn't to come out until after it was constructed? Why could I not make that assumption? And if that's the case with you being the county's quarterback and with previous designs and documentation always desiring the bridge to remain in, would that not be a reasonable assumption that that would still the county's position?
Well, not really, because where these berms have to be placed for this design, you cannot leave the bridge up and still place them. I mean, you could possibly leave a portion of the bridge up, but you're going to have to take portions of it down in order to construct them. So, no, I don't think you can make a reasonable assumption that the old structure was to stay up.
Does that answer your question, Joe?
So what is the traditional, the metal plate, that, you said that this is not a typical form of construction for a bridge, utilizing the berms. What's the other method, and how does that impact keeping the bridge open?
Well, so the other method would be to basically construct a temporary bridge, a steel structure across the river for the contractor to work on in installing the new bridge. And that is a significant cost.
Kevin, this is Commissioner Woodruff again. The bid that we accepted, being the low bid that passed muster with all those that reviewed it, was that lower bid from what was projected to be the estimated cost? Is this lower cost relative or in line with the way that the construction schedule was presented to us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You say significant cost to do it the other method. What does significant mean? What is that dollar amount ballpark?
I honestly don't know because I've not calculated it for the structure, but you're probably talking in the neighborhood of $1 to $1.5 million.
So approximately what we saved with this bid.
Kevin, it's Tyler again. Did any of the contractors who bid on the project, bid the bridge to put the other structure over, or did everybody bid it this way?
Everybody bid it this way.
So if this was common knowledge by people that were bidding, how come I was led to believe and other commissioners were led to believe that this bridge was gonna stay open?
I cannot answer that. I certainly have not spoken to anyone and said that the bridge was going to remain open.
Kevin, this is Commissioner Wooler. So if the steel structure is used, the contractor uses that for construction, does that also allow for through traffic? Or just the contractor uses it?
No, it's just for use by the contractor. It doesn't meet design standards for traffic, so NDOT would not allow it to be used for through traffic.
Now, when we say use the structure from the existing bridge, what exactly are you talking about, Kevin, and how will that be utilized by the successful low bidder?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Sure. How is the successful low bidder, what is he going to use? What portions of the existing bridge is important? And I'm assuming that none of that existing bridge is being used as part of the new bridge. So is it being used as a riprap? Is it being used as, are we getting some piling out of there? What exactly is the salvage that he's using? And I'm guessing when I say salvage, you evidently put in the bid documents that the salvage was that of the contractor. That's the only way a reasonable person could assume this is happening.
Documents for the existing structure to be broken up and used as fill in the new roadway and as riprap.
That was, excuse me, this is Commissioner Woodruff again, that was spelled out in the bid documents?
It is.
All right, so if we're not able to adjust this plan, what's a potential workaround? How do we find a solution to keep traffic able to go through this area? Whether it be a pontoon type bridge, a shoe fly, whatever that may look like. Even if we need to explore getting a temporary easement, maybe further east where the river channel is narrower, what does that look like?
Well, to answer your question, the first and most important part of trying to do any of those things is you're going to have to go back to the Corps of Engineers and submit a new permit. Because this is the plan that they've approved, and any alterations to that will require a new permit, a new application.
And give us an estimate as to how much time that would take.
40 years.
We may never get it.
Never get it?
Now look how long. Kevin, one other question, I guess. This is Commissioner Hughley again. If the contractor were not, think this through here a little bit.
While we're waiting on that, Joe, let me ask something.
Please.
Kevin, have you heard from the Corps as far as the, giving us the green light to begin any of the procedures in construction of this bridge?
The State Historical Preservation Office responded to my inquiry last week, I believe it was on Wednesday, that they approved the photo documentation of the existing bridge, and so they've signed off on it. I had reached out to the Corps at the same time. I've not had a response yet. I intended to either contact them this afternoon or first thing in the morning and see if I can get an answer out of them.
Kevin, I do, now I'm able to look at this drawing a little bit. I'm trying to visualize, tell me the blue lines and the red lines. The printing is so small on here, I really can't read what it is. So what does this red line represent, the lower blown up drawing? What are those red lines indicating?
So the blue
Is that a
line
phase
is
two?
the phase one temporary river diversion. So
Sure.
that's the temporary berm that we're putting into the water to divert the rivers away from the first phase of the construction. And then the red line we remove the blue line and put the red line in. That's the phase 2 temporary river diversion.
Right, so, and I'm looking at the phase 1, which is blue, correct?
Correct.
And it looks like this little blue riprap on either end of the approach is probably the riprap that you're talking about as a bank stabilization for the roadways. Am I interpreting that correct?
The riprap that's shown is the final riprap that will be placed when the new bridge is up and constructed.
Okay, has nothing to do with riprap from the previous bridge.
Yeah, that riprap will come from the previous bridge. The
That-
previous
that-
bridge will be broken up into the riprap.
That was my statement, yes. So I'm not a bridge engineer, but you said it obviously could not happen if the berms were constructed the way they are. The only way this could probably happen is if there were additional separation, which there originally was in the first plan. So somehow the separation has come closer, and that's water under the bridge. I'm not going to try to address that. I'm just trying to see with the existing bridge being, is that 30-foot upstream, 20-foot upstream? I'm trying to see what I'm looking at.
It's annotated, but you can't read it.
The new structure is 20 feet upstream.
Okay.
Or 20 feet downstream, excuse me.
Is there a way, to follow up on Commissioner Bruns' statement, if that existing bridge remains just the way it is right now, and we take and construct, say, some sheet pile cofferdam to dry up part of the construction area, phase 1 and 2, rather than doing that with an earthen dam. I understand sheet pile is gonna be an additional cost, I get that. Is there a way that we can do this and still try to leave that bridge open to local traffic and do this in 2 phases, just like we did with sheet piling? We could pull the second part, get our vibrators up there, drive this phase 2 once we get the first half of the bridge constructed. That's a question. Hypothetically, can we do that?
Hypothetically, you could do that. You would have to go back to the Corps and request permission for it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Requesting permission to do something like that obviously is not changing the overall design of the bridge. It's merely a difference in material for the berm. Is this something that could be just a question that's posed to the Army Corps of Engineers to find out if it's just a simple amendment, or if the actual application needs to be completely proposed through the Army Corps of Engineers?
Based on my dealings with the Corps, it would be a new application.
Is that a question we can pose to them without hindering the possible response from them?
Yeah, I mean, a question's a question. We're not actually submitting a new response, I would think.
Kevin, what is your thoughts? Is that something we could propose to them as a question?
You can ask the question, sure.
Kevin, do you work with Nebraska, or are you working out of Kansas City? Whom are you working with when you talk with the Corps?
No, it's here in Nebraska.
Okay, thank you.
I would ask that you, if the chairman agrees, ask that question of the Army Corps of Engineers. I mean, we're going on 4 decades of this project. Taking a little extra time to ask these questions and see if we can find a solution that works for everybody, even if it takes a couple months, I don't think is gonna be a make or break on this entire thing, and that would be my request.
I'll respond to that. From your standpoint, a month or 2 is not much time. For the contractor's standpoint, it is. So I would suggest that you keep that in mind. If you're wanting me to ask a question of the Corps, you're going to need to give me a pretty substantial idea of what your idea is with this sheet pile.
Would it be possible, Kevin, that one member of this board or two, probably be better for two because that's a committee, actually sit down with you along with our highway superintendent and have this discussion in a little more detail? Maybe even have somebody come with us so that we can get your input as we're doing this, and then maybe we can also strategize about exactly whom at the core we would make this request of.
Sure, absolutely.
Kevin, would it be of value for us to have the contractor present for those discussions?
I think it'd be fair.
I think it could be, yes.
My understanding is that they have scheduled equipment work, and they are just ready to go once they get the green light. Would be putting a burden on them. Would that be a fair statement?
Statement, yes.
And I think, I'm only speaking for myself, but I'm in the construction business and I know that delays cost money. And I think that we all at this table realize that this may cost additional money to the contractor. We're aware of that. Fair is fair.
Good enough.
Tyler, my question to you is, we have signed a contract as a change order before work is ever done. Is that something that is illegal?
If the design changes, sure.
Okay.
But I will caution the board, you have a signed contract with a contractor.
But we're still waiting on an answer from the Army Corps of Engineers,
I
so we might as
understand
well
that.
pose that question while we're waiting.
I just want to tell the board, you have a signed contract with a contractor, and every day that we, as the owner, interfere with them from doing the work, it's gonna be a problem.
Well, let's get everybody together and just have a frank conversation and see if they're amicable to it, and pose the question to the Army Corps of Engineers. And
Kevin, would you
That's
be
all I can
available
ask.
yet this week for this proposed meeting?
Yes, I could be available Wednesday or Friday.
Joe, you have suggested this meeting. I have no idea the type of strict construction you're talking about. Would you like to be part of that meeting?
I would like one of the road members, if possible, to be a part of it, because I don't want to feel like I'm taking something from the road committee.
I will step back from that meeting. I feel Joe speaks very intelligently to the conversation, and you've been on the committee longer than I have been.
I
So-
understand that, but I would also yield to someone that is more local.
in this situation, it's a roads committee thing, as long as I'm filled in and communicated with, I think that fills my concerns.
I'm gonna step back and have you be that person.
If that's your prerogative.
That's my choice.
Sounds good.
Okay, Kevin, you tell us the time and we'll have that meeting right here in this room.
Or as far as I'm concerned, we can have it somewhere else. I'm just speaking for myself.
We
I
can
just want to have the
a
meeting.
virtual conversation, a Zoom, we don't have to necessarily be in here.
Kevin,
Well, I have no problem with coming to North Platte for the meeting.
okay, I will have Commissioners Hughley and Bruns be in touch with you and Jason Schultz, the road superintendent.
And if we can invite someone else involved in that kind of industry.
Yeah, they
too.
will be there, correct? Thank you. Okay. What else?
A step closer than we were
Step
last week.
closer.
Okay, I have a question. No, I'll save that till after this meeting, this group gets together. Okay. Anything else?
My only caution is I don't wanna derail this project after 3 decades.
I don't think any of us want to derail
I
the
understand
project.
that, but if we've gotta keep in mind, we may have to bite off something we don't want to, but, going back to the Corps, I've been here long, I've only been here 5 years, and I know what a nightmare that is.
I am not suggesting that we resubmit a proposal to the Army Corps of Engineers. I'm merely asking if this is something that would work in the spirit of the original permit.
Can we have a uniform thought that we want a new bridge?
100%.
Agreed.
I think having a new bridge is a matter of safety for all people who use the bridge. So in my opinion, it is necessary to replace the bridge. While we're waiting for you guys to convene your meeting, would it be prudent of us to start having conversation with the community of Sutherland and exploring things that can be considered, and if the bridge has to come down, what we can do to help the community through that process?
I think
That has been discussed, and Commissioner Weems, would you care to divulge some of the things you and I spoke about?
Yeah, we did a little brainstorming on that, because we know it's gonna impact, budgets. Sutherland, hats off to them, being very frugal with their budget, but they had to raise taxes.
Sutherland School.
Yeah, Sutherland School, for some, storm damage, and so they're not in a position to really have a lot of room in their transportation budget. I personally would have an appetite to assist them if there's a way possible and offset that expense. That doesn't solve all the problems with this, but we're cognizant of the fact that it's gonna cost them money.
And to back up, Ken, I want to make sure that I will back off right now. If at any time this discussion may derail this project, I'm out. Let's just do it the way it is. After this long, boy, believe me, those were words of wisdom. Thank you.
And this isn't the first bridge in Lincoln County that has inconvenienced folks on the other side of not one, not two, but 3 bridges. And if you want to talk about how you deal with that, 539-0475. 539-0475. Go ahead. One other thing we discussed is, if the bridge does get closed, is there a facility on the north side of the river where emergency equipment could be stored in the event of a need for that, and an EMT type person that could make that happen?
I think we have representatives from their first responder department here that could probably answer that question.
Is that possible?
No. You still gotta get people there. They don't have people to run the equipment, does you no good to leave it set out in the middle of nowhere.
Are there people that live out on the north side that could fill that role? Okay. Well, Jason, you have something more you want to add?
I do have one question for Kevin. So relating to the change we're discussing here, as far as it relates to the Corps of Engineers, I think another aspect is our funding with the state. So if we were to alter those plans and change those plans, could that possibly affect our application for the funding with the state as well?
That would be a question we would definitely want to ask NDOT and find out, because potentially, yes, it could affect that.
So we probably need to discuss that with both entities before we make a decision on that, right?
I think that would be wise, yes.
Oh, okay, thanks, Kevin.
It's just
So-
a couple
Yeah, thank you.
couple questions that can be asked to the appropriate people to find out if there's a workaround.
Yep.
If there's no workaround, then we have to make do, because we're not gonna kill this project.
Okay, so those are some things that are very important for you two to be working on with those folks in those discussions. Anything else that we need to be thinking about, Kevin, to make sure that we, number one, don't derail the project, but number two, research every avenue that we can think of to try to alleviate some of this inconvenience?
There's nothing else that I can think of at the moment.
Any other questions for Kevin Petros, the engineer with Miller and Associates?
I'd just like to say thank you for being on the line.
Yeah, I would agree. Kevin, thank you for being here with us. Commissioner Wheeler, you have a question?
I believe this was brought up already, but I would just like you to clarify all of the bids from all of the contractors involved removing the bridge at the beginning of the project. There wasn't a discrepancy in the bids there, correct?
That's correct. They were all bid for removing the structure at the outset of the project.
Yeah, I'm just making clear, nobody's criticizing the contractor by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, I think in our last meeting, there was a remark made by a citizen that they had spoken to one of the contractors who said that their bid involved leaving the bridge up. And I just wanted that clarified, that it was, all the bids were for taking the bridge down at the beginning of the project.
And Kevin, tell us again the savings that the low bidder is saving to Lincoln County, as opposed to the estimated cost.
I don't have that figure directly in front of me, but I believe it was right at about $1 million.
Okay? Jason, anything else you want to ask her, Kevin?
Nope, just appreciate your time, Kevin.
Tyler, do you have anything else?
It's absolutely my pleasure. I'd like to get us to work through this and get a bridge built.
Kevin, or Tyler, anything else you have? Nope. Colleagues,
Not at this time.
you two will work very diligently at getting this set up
Been my
ASAP.
It's my chief priority.
You got it. Kevin, we're gonna let you go. Thank you for your involvement, and we'll be looking forward to having you meet with two of our commissioners.
Good. I appreciate it.
Yep, thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you all for coming. What's that?
That's it, we're just done.
What do you want us to do?
I don't know. An inconvenience is something that might be a month or two, but 2 years is more than an inconvenience to our livelihoods.
It's about 1 year and 9 months, I think. Yeah, I know it is.
Let us have the conversation and see if we can find a solution that's amicable to everybody. I have a vested interest right along with you to keep this
The machines
open.
were idling when we went by this morning. There's machines at the bridge and they're ready to roll.
They're ready to roll, but they can't get going until the Army Corps of Engineers gives the final thumbs up. And so we have a little bit of time to ask these questions and see if we can get something worked out.
And
There's a lot of people that are involved in this process, and we've got to make sure that everybody's on the same page, that we're not doing harm to the contractor. We have contractual obligations. It's my chief priority. I know that Commissioner Hughley has a vested interest, all of us do, to find a solution that works for everybody. Unfortunately, the realism of the fact is, we may not be able to come to a solution that we would all like to see, but at the end of the day, we will have a new bridge. Just let us work through this process and and see if we can find something, okay?
We
That's
appreciate.
what I ask.
We appreciate your interest and we appreciate your patience. Please stay tuned. Thank you.
Do you allow a public comment at your meetings, or is it over, is it, are you adjourned, or what's the policy? Is it once a month?
Okay.
Order, or what?
Policy, the law is, the chairman doesn't have to let anybody speak. You can't stop you from attending, don't have to let you speak.
That being said, we did hear some comments last week, and you were very, you gave some very good comments. If you would be acceptable to the entire group as being their spokesman, I would allow you I'd allow you a little time to speak.
Entire group?
You're on a clock. I'm not sure how long it is, but have at
Let
it.
me sign in for the rules.
And tell us again your.
Torrey Copeland, resident of Sullivan, school board member. I understand where you're at, and I'm not advocating the delay of this, because that Army Corps of Engineers is a bad word. I understand. But I'm gonna make some statements here that's opinion, I'm guessing about 99% of there. In this contract, I think somebody was asleep at the wheel on this. That's the way it was. We were supposed to have that bridge since 1986 operational. Everybody assumed. I know what they say when you assume, but something changed somewhere. It should have been a line item somewhere that somebody should have caught to address this and not going through all this rigmarole. It is somewhat insulting to call this an inconvenience. This is a unique road in the county. There is no other way in or out unless you go to Tryon, through Tin Camp, or through a one-lane blacktop road by Diamond Bar. This is not a mere inconvenience. We're talking a safety issue here. Fire, rescue, law enforcement. I spoke with Jerome a little bit ago. Those east-west roads are tough. That road was closed for over a month in the late 80s. Gary Trigo had to feed his bulls at the bottom of that by taking a haystack to the top of the bluffs and rolling it down, and then pitchforking it across the fence because it was inaccessible for over a month. I spoke to the road superintendent. He said, well, that'd become a priority then to get it open. Well, we can't just all of a sudden name a priority. It should have been anyway. It was closed for over a week last year. They had access the other way to Hershey, so they didn't have to get there. But this is not just a mere inconvenience. This is a safety issue. It should have been looked at. This is water under the bridge issue, but it does not, basically from the north half of this building, physically it does not affect you guys. Maybe some nasty phone calls and feeling bad. Everybody on the other end of this, practically, it affects one life or one farmstead burning down. It's not just, well, we're sorry. We feel bad. Not as bad as we feel. I don't live out there, but I know some elderly people who live at the west end of North River Road who still have a trail road to go through after they leave the county road. Their only option is to go to Sarbin through a private property that the gates are locked now. I'm just saying, this is more serious than I think some people realize. It's not a mere inconvenience. It's not like anywhere out south, anywhere up north, you can usually go a mile or two and catch a road. This is a box canyon. Several different ways. I just think it's frustrating. We've talked about this for 40 years. This discussion and this bid process should have come up. I did personally speak to the bridge foreman from Simon Contractors. He said, now he's the foreman, granted he didn't have the contract, but to his knowledge, closing that bridge was not an option until the end where the abutments are tied together. And everybody understands when you tie a road together, there would be now that would be an inconvenience. And there's anybody who's been in the construction industry knows we're talking 20 plus months. I'm calling bull on that. It's gonna be 24 months. It's gonna be 30 months. Look at the bridge out by the airport. I have never seen a bridge or a construction project get done and ahead of schedule of this size, and never under budget. There is no way that this bridge will be closed for the 20 plus months. Plus, the Army hasn't even given you the date. Are they just gonna close the bridge and not work on it? I've also seen contractors close roads and bridges and sit there for months with no activity because they can't. Until they're ready to push down the first tree or blade of grass, they should not close that road. That arbitrary date of the 16th. They can't work if they're idling or not. They can't do anything. You've said that at this meeting and the last. So it should not be closed till the second that bulldozer is ready to push dirt. That's another thing we have to be cognizant of. But they want to close that road and not start for how, with the Army Corps of Engineers, it might be months before they allow them to start. We don't know that. Nobody can say that for sure. So you got to understand the frustration. It's insulting calling this an inconvenience. It's much more than an inconvenience. This is a safety issue. This is a budget issue. I could actually, at the end of the day, the budget affects the school is about the least concern I have. Even being an elected official and we had to beg the taxpayers for forgiveness. That is my least concern of this whole thing. And I'm very fiscally conservative. So I just hope you understand there's going to be some unintended consequences to this. It will not go smoothly as any construction does. There's gonna be hiccups, and if anybody wants to put money on that 20 plus months or less, I'll take them on that bet right now. So I guess thank you for your time, but you guys need to realize the seriousness of this discussion and the seriousness of when you vote or whatever you have to do. I think next time we have a project like this, you need to bring the public into it, like they did with the Hershey Bridge, and say, hey, that's the first question I would ask. Is that bridge gonna remain open? No, it's not. Well, then the discussion changes, and it wouldn't change those permits hardly at all. We would have moved it 20, 50 foot further east. That's pretty simple. Wouldn't have cost a lot of money by simply moving this far enough east originally. I bet you the dollar amount would have been minuscule. So, thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Okay. We are very serious about this project, and I'm sorry if I offended you.
I don't offend easy, but it is somewhat insulting.
Well, I'm sorry that I insulted you. Accept that?
Oh, yes, we're good.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Okay, we got some other business to take care of. Do we need a closed session, Deputy County Attorney?
No.
Okay, good. Hear concerns from elected officials, department heads, or their representatives. We have a report maybe from the veterans,
Yes.
your visit with Tom Gannon, legislative session. Would you give us a little update on that?
Real quick, Tom Gann and I were joined by Spike Jordan out of, I believe, Box Butte County in northwestern Nebraska to do a presentation to the NACO Legislative Committee on a small change that the veterans service officers throughout Nebraska now. It initially started with Tom Gann noticing a small bit of language in state statute that prohibited use of county funds, one-time emergency use of county funds to help local veterans outside a certain service window. So Tom got the ball rolling and many service officers joined in. We had a nice representation there. His presentation went very well. We had a lot of support and many people coming up to us after the presentation offering to support their quest. So I see it being picked up. We should hear from the NACO Legislative Committee soon. And I will keep this board updated. Tom will keep his board updated. And I see this being something that we may ask for support from the community members also.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, you had, this board had asked for an update on West Central Nebraska Development District and the stakeholder meeting for a potential infrastructure project brainstorming session and utilizing federal grant opportunities that are in existence. Amber Kuski has scheduled that meeting with stakeholders in a closed-door meeting for 26th at 2 p.m. Myself and Commissioner Ruler will be attending as Commissioner Weems is going to be out of town that day for that particular meeting, but I felt it was important that we had 2 county commissioners participating in that initial discussion. So variety of stakeholders invited from members of the Port Authority, District 6 for the Highway, Department of Transportation. We have some community members involved. The city has some representatives, the village of Hershey. So it should be a good conversation, and I'll apprise the board of what transpires out of that meeting.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you for your work on that. Jason, the department head, do you have anything else to add? Sheriff? Any other department heads? Elected officials and their representatives? Question for my colleagues. Should we work through these claims and then start on our item number 11? So we can give that full attention?
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So, we've got a few minutes here, so, We will begin our work session just as soon as we can get to it, but it'll be a few minutes.
So Mike, just to make sure, Joe and Chris are going to go to the meeting on the road, on the bridge issue.
Yes.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you, guys. Good day, guys. Oh, you want, those tax credits, yeah, that's probably gonna be my final back percentage. They had it done. I reached out to Joe
There was. Hold up, quick.
Just saying.
Hasn't been helping my diet at all. It's been having the opposite effect.
I'm down to 170 pounds. I don't know where further I go. Sleep about 3 or 4 hours a night.
If even.
Your comment was well taken. We need to keep the big picture in mind at the end of it.
We already did.
But if we put it back in the court, who would?
Oh, sure.
Can we blame it on Tanner?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Or Tyler.
I think they're both currently ignoring us, so.
Indulge your patience, we're gonna finish up our other business so we can get on with that, so please be patient with us. We'll be right to our work session. Good, I'm glad somebody is.
You sort of got a process down. I sign them and they read them, so we don't know how to take it, right?
Becky.
Yeah, I have that one.
I'll send yet another text message right now.
Jason will have the number.
Absolutely. No, we owe that to them, to be part of this. Okay.
From Katie and Kia.
My understanding is Parrots purchased Kia.
That is correct. I heard that.
My understanding is that Parrot Construction purchased Kia. Mr. Parrot is Kevin and Jason has his cars.
Just have Jason coordinate that. Hmm?
So.
I mean, that would be convenient for us.
Conversations with it's telling them. It was never me.
You can set up okay. Joe, I'm flexible
Questions
with
I
whenever
probably
works for the
should have been
engineer.
Looked at my calendar and I, whenever we can get it to work, I'm flexible also, so.
Jason, we'll have you spearhead that.
Coordinating and scheduling, please.
Kia, Parrot. Kevin, okay? Just let me know when it's gonna occur. I just wanna know when it starts, when you got to schedule it.
So,
Whenever works for them, I'll make it work.
anytime,
Yeah.
anytime.
Ideally Wednesday.
Wednesday, yes. Friday I will not be here because I'm in crime commission meeting, so.
Oh, yeah, after 10 on Wednesday. Yeah, Joe and I both have a meeting on Wednesday
Is that the
at the
18th?
Public Safety Building for the rail car.
Mm-hmm.
This room's open, Jason, if you wanna have it in here. If you need a Zoom or something, we can set that up.
Thank you.
Tammy, on the NACO website for the Operation Greenlight, there is a press release for maybe next week after we do the resolution. If you would send that out, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I have it on my list already.
Oh, thank you. You're always one step ahead of me. I appreciate that. Oh, last one.
That's fine.
Can you do?
Sure.
I think we all could.
Let me take about a 5-minute recess.
That's your prerogative, Mr. Chairman.
And we have a Zoom I need to set up for. So that'll give us time to do it.
Okay, please do. Becky, you'll take about a 5-minute break.
Is this the last one? Should be.
We can let him know we're.
It was waiting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have that copy of what I emailed you? Can you please? My recommendations. Yes, please. Thank you.
Just think how much fun this would be if we were building this bridge 400, 500, 600 foot in the air. Funny, wasn't it? I have to find some humor in all this.
There might not be much to find in that one. You're right. See if the sheriff's got some, when they get rid of those bulletproof vests, those flak jackets, see if we can get one in the next meeting. Wear it, maybe that'll get the idea of.
Yeah. Yeah, my neighbor,
Reflect some of that.
my neighbor wears a Kevlar vest to work every day. I think I'll, if I can get borrowed. Special Agent EB,
Oh, what's his name again?
McKeeman.
Sure. Yeah. Seems like a pretty decent guy, I don't know him.
Okay, we will,
That clock?
Maybe it's because it is.
Yeah, it's on the camera. You can. Yeah, you can.
okay, we will move on to our next agenda item. First off, we will have Judy Clark, City County Planning Administrator. She will bring us up to date on some things, and then we've got some folks that I wish to have, I have questions for and wish to receive information from, so now you can hear me better. We will start with you, Judy.
Okay, Judy Clark, Planning and Zoning Administrator for Lincoln County. And with me today, there are a couple of Planning Commission members, Aaron Edwards, Zach Eichhoff, and Chuck Bowden. So they're here if you have any questions for Planning Commission or want to talk to them a little bit. Also on Zoom, several months back, you know, we entered into a contract for a comprehensive plan with Marvin Planning Consultants. And so I thought it might be good to have him at least listen in and maybe give you all some advice too on what's going on.
Refresh my memory. They're working on city plans
And the county comprehensive plan. Yep, both the city comprehensive plan and the county comprehensive plan, and they're also doing a housing study countywide.
And they're also doing, the Village of Hershey's comprehensive plan.
That is
So,
correct.
Yes.
That
they're-
was their own contract that they did on the
Yes.
side a little bit, so,
Okay.
yeah. So, I had talked with our consultant, just on the phone, and he just said, hey, I'd like to kind of hear what's going on with this wind generation, that sort of thing. So from the last meeting, I've been working on a map that is only partially completed, just kind of to give you guys an idea of some of the things that we've been talking about. Can you, how do I pull that map up? Can you do that for me really quick? I have it on here in paper form, but it's probably gonna be a little bit easier if you look at it. This is just some highlights of some things that we've been talking about, some distance setbacks, that sort of thing. The pink is distances from the city of North Platte and from the villages. And this is not perfect. It would need to be redone professionally so we could have it perfect. The green areas are all the cemeteries in Lincoln County, which I had no idea we had that many cemeteries in Lincoln County. And then the purple area, I did not highlight all of the, those were like the wildlife preserve areas. Most of those are along the river. You can kind of see in the purple notations. Most of those were along the river, but I did highlight the ones that weren't already in either a pink or green area. So that kind of gives you those things. Now, the things that I'm still missing from here is a map that was provided at the meeting indicating where the Loess Canyon areas are, or otherwise known as the Sand Hills. And then the,
Both the Sand Hills and the Loess Canyon.
yeah, sorry, I'm confused. I got it backwards.
Yeah.
Both the Sand Hills and the Loess Canyons area. So
And
the
the
Sand
s-
Hills is more of kind of basically the northern portion of the county. And then the Loess Canyon areas are down south and east. So that kind of gives you different types of soils. So, I know Commissioner Bruns has been working on doing a lot of research. I looked at wetlands maps, and Chris looked at some wetlands maps. I do believe I brought one along, and then we also looked at soil type maps. And so I do have a soil type map that I did not put up there that you guys can take a look at.
This is from the county GIS, our assessor's soil type map. No, that one is
This
actually
one is
from
not.
the
This
US.
one is actually from
The NRCS.
NRCS. I'll pass that around so you can kind of look at soil type maps. And then, we did get the GIS, I was working on trying to put that together with soil types from the assessor's office. I'm gonna be working on doing that also so that you can have kind of a better idea and what each
Tell
of
us what we're
those.
looking at here.
So that's a soil type map. If you look at the yellow areas, that is called your Valentine soils. I believe there's a key right there. It's probably
Yes.
hard to see. Those are more of your sandy type soils, that sort of thing that you're looking at there. And we did get this print out, but this one would be associated more with the GIS map, which I'm gonna have to get you in the future. That has all the different soil types, what they are. There's, silt, there's, sandy soil, there's clay. I mean, there's just all different types of soils that, hopefully I can get that GIS map to indicate all of those different types of soils on another map at maybe next week's meeting or something like that. I also went through and got a map this is from the US Fish and Wildlife, and this is the National Wetlands Inventory. And I'll pass that one around too. We don't have a ton of wetlands. Most of it is in the blue that you can see, that would be the ones that we would be really concerned with. I know at the last meeting, there was a question about what is USFW
Types 3,
types
4,
three,
and
4, and
5.
5 that are in our regulations, currently in our regulations. Those are actually I emailed Chris, I think it's Minnesota.
So I went through that email, they're actually all over the country. We don't currently have any classifications like that from US Fish and Wildlife in Lincoln County, but the language, I believe, is in there in case that ever changes.
In case that ever did happen, yep. So those are things that I'm kind of trying to work
was the last
on
one we
putting
talked
together.
Wetlands.
Joe, you had asked last week about
Wetlands, where they were at.
the US FW types 3, 4, and 5 having setbacks that I had recommended.
The other thing that was brought up, and I'm gonna let Commissioner Bruns talk to you about this one, is the height, like possibly regulating a maximum height of turbines. And that's, I believe he sent out a sheet of kind of which ones have been these are all Nebraska, correct?
So Joe wanted to see some empirical data on height. So I had a conversation with NPPD, with the Nebraska Department of Environment and Energy, and ultimately was pointed in the direction of the United States Wind Turbine Database. And so a lot of really good data as a resource there. Went through and had to pull, and essentially it's an interactive map. You can see literally every turbine that's in the state of Nebraska, and I collected and compiled all this data to show the different projects throughout the state. The hub height, which is the main tower, the hub that the rotor's attached to. It has the rotor diameter, both in meters and feet, as well as the total height, which per our definition is as the rotor is at its tallest point, that point to the ground is the total height of the tower. And as you can see in this data, that goes back to 1998 when Lincoln Wind Energy Facility first put in, obviously, those are fairly old systems. I don't even know that they're making those still, but they're still operational near the Lincoln, next to Waverly as you traverse the interstate. All the way to 2022, where we're seeing towers go in approximately 600 feet. But out of all the projects, and the vast majority of the turbines, which have been put in, 2016 is really when the major project went in. It shows that the average project turbine height is 446.28 feet. I had originally in my recommendations 300 to 350 feet, and that was off of a cursory search, but after looking at this data, I would recommend that we change that to limiting turbine height to 450 feet, which would be a few feet taller than the vast majority of turbines that are in the state of Nebraska. And I think that we would have an interest to give some reference. The smokestacks, the stacks at Gerald Gentleman are 500 feet tall. So that gives you some reference on the height. And new turbines are approaching 600 to 700 feet elsewhere in the country. So
One of the things to think about on the height, I don't disagree with Chris at all, because the height, the taller they get, the more you're gonna see them, definitely. But most of them that are going in now are exceeding that height. Reason being, the taller you get it, the more power they can generate, so you have a less number of towers. But they're gonna be a lot taller, so just something to think about. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I've got something I want to ask, but go ahead.
Okay. And just to bring up a couple of other things, and this actually came from Aaron Edwards. He reached out to, and I would have never even thought about doing this, the Weather Service, National Weather Service. And they got to talking about turbines actually causing issues with the weather management, the radars, with the radar systems. That they can actually block communication with the radar systems, and Aaron's gonna know more than I do if you wanna ask him a question about it, but I thought that was really interesting. I hadn't even thought about something like that occurring due to wind towers, but just something out there for thought.
Okay.
So their study was done, it's a national study that they had done.
And you are Aaron Edwards,
I'm
correct?
Aaron, yes.
Please, okay.
And those were only for turbines, the study was done on turbines 180 meters tall, for reference.
180 meters is how many feet?
that's about 590 feet tall.
Yeah, so, I mean, as tall as anything's going to be. They ran into problems down in Goodland, Kansas. Their radar down there gets interfered with a lot to the west from a wind farm that's in Colorado. And so that's something that they are concerned about. They even pick up ones that are up there by Broken Bow and whatnot occasionally from the radar that's up there.
Thanks for that input, please. Thank you. Judy, do you have anything more?
Not right now, other than, and I probably need to get Keith back on the screen, but other than, I wanted to kind of make a recommendation. I think what you guys are doing is absolutely wonderful, trying to talk all of this out. But we have hired these guys to do our comp plan. And also along with that, we can ask them to look at regulations. So I am just going to suggest to all of you that we give our consultant all of the information we did. If we want to continue to have a couple of meetings, have planning commission have meetings, forward all that information to our consultant. But I think we're paying him. I think we should let him do his job.
That would not generate an additional charge for us
No.
with the comp plan. That would be covered under the agreement we already have.
That is part of their job.
I would like to hear from that gentleman in regards to what he would be looking at.
Okay. Keith, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
You
sir.
bet.
Yes.
Okay, well, everything Judy said is correct. So, one of the things, if you look at your current comprehensive plan, you've got a fairly extensive environmental and natural resource chapter already. We will be diving into that even deeper, with a lot of different types of maps. With what you're talking about here, we're gonna be identifying probably the Sand Hills region and pulling that out specifically as part of that. We will be updating your energy stuff and including a lot more information and policy related stuff with regard to renewable energies and everything else. So this is stuff that we were anticipating as far as what we need to look at. And yes, you've got some interesting information and data that I would love to see. I'm making notes, and I'm sitting here saying I need Mr. Bruns's data on wind turbines, I need this, I need that. So this is something that we're working on with other counties across the state. Honestly, I think if you're looking at numbers, I work real heavily with a gentleman by the name of Dave Patak, who is an attorney. And Dave has this theory, if you put a number in there, where is it coming from and what's the rational nexus for that number? Because you're gonna be asked why that number is relevant in court if you get sued.
Yep.
So,
Want it
the data
defensible.
you're talking about with Judy, talking about radar interference on heights, with a major weather service, locating radar in your area, that's gonna be important. I've also been talking to my client, I'm working with Perry County to the north of you, and we've been talking about using environmental and soil stuff as opposed to more separation distances, because I think that would give you a better argument in court as opposed to saying you want them 5 miles apart. It's easier for a judge to wrap their hands around that kind of data probably than trying to figure out why that number is what it is. So
Okay.
a lot of this, what we want to do is use your comprehensive plan, your new comprehensive plan, to bring all that information and give you the information you need to make those decisions. That's what a comprehensive plan is about.
Okay, sir, can you tell us where you are in this process and when we can expect the information back from you?
Honestly, we're kind of in the early first third of the project, so one thing that you do have in place, which is good, is a moratorium. We've got several counties right now that have moratoriums in place until we can get through this whole process. So this process, Judy will confirm, was somewhere between 18 and 24 months from start to finish.
That was correct.
And we've been,
So this comp plan analysis that we've hired Marvin to do is not going to be completed before our moratorium expires. However, we do have the ability to extend our moratorium as a board for another year. It's supposed to be done toward the end of next year, isn't it, Marvin?
I believe, yeah.
Or Keith, sorry.
Everything goes right. Yeah,
Keith Marvin.
everything goes right.
He's got two.
Familiar
first names,
face.
it's okay.
I've been called worse.
My apologies regardless.
You're fine.
Okay, so that is, that appears to be a pretty reasonable recommendation that allows us to, I want to hear again your comments in regards to if the county is in litigation regarding a particular recommendation that someone may feel is overly restrictive. Touch upon that again, please.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna tell you you're gonna get out of being in litigation, because as Judy has heard a friend of ours say, any fool in filing fee can take you to court. So, anyway.
How true.
Our goal is to try to give you a better stance when you go, if you do get litigated on a decision, so that you have better findings and better data to support a decision. Okay, so that you have it, so that you're comfortable and confident that you're gonna have at least a better than average chance of winning that case.
Okay,
And that's what the comprehensive plan needs to do, is it needs to be in place in order to support your regulations. That's why we go into so much detail in our comp plans.
okay, super. I appreciate that. I thought I understood you correctly the first time.
I won't guarantee you won't get litigated, but I mean, our job is to help you give you the best chance possible to win.
Okay, super.
And then Keith, you will give us advice on adjusting our current regulations to fit that comprehensive plan, correct? That is part of the project.
That's correct,
Okay.
that's part of the contract.
Just wanted to make sure everybody understood that.
So then a question that I would have, if all of these regulations are tied up in our comprehensive plan, this goes through public hearing to
Yes.
adopt, we would then not need to have additional public hearings to consider this, because we would be adopting what would be written in the comp plan. Is that correct?
Well-
In the new zoning code.
Yeah, he will provide us with both, a comp plan and new zoning code.
Right.
Now, how new that is, I don't know, there may be just a few minor changes. But yes, we would go through an entire comp plan and adopt it as one, and the zoning regulations we would adopt as one.
As one?
Yep.
Exactly.
Tyler, did I see you squirming a little bit over there in your chair, or is this all correct? About the public hearing for the planning comprehensive plan?
Yeah, you'll have to have a public hearing to adopt your new comp plan, but that's toward the end of 2024.
My point is we don't have to have a public hearing to adopt the comp plan and the zoning code, and then have another public hearing to adopt specific regulations concerning wind and solar. We're doing it all collectively as one.
Correct?
That's my feeling.
Okay. I guess you got outvoted even if you say no, but that's all right.
Happens around here a lot.
Mr. Chairman, I love Judy's idea of this. I mean, aside from the fact that we're already paying for these services with Keith Marvin and his
Marvin
firm.
Keith?
But we've done a lot of, I've done research. I know other commissioners have done research. We have planning commissioners that are doing research. But to have that provided to Keith and his firm and them to do additional research and formulation of appropriate language, I think just provides us an additional firewall, so to speak, and makes it that much more defensible in court should there be litigation, which, as Keith and I'm gonna repeat the quote because he's already made the point much better than I can, so it could very well be likely that we have to defend it in court.
Okay, anything else, Judy?
I don't have anything unless you have questions.
Okay, I have a question. And I'm gonna ask the RWE representative to come forward. I have a question for you. My question revolved around turbine height. I circled 350 feet last week.
Yep. Based off the additional research that I did, I'm recommending changing that to 450.
I'm not sure that's enough. I want to hear from someone in the industry, what is I'm not talking about in the past, but if you had a crystal ball, what would you see turbine height be in the future?
The majority of turbine heights.
Would you state who you are, please?
I'm Julie Drennan, I'm the outreach manager with RWE Clean Energy.
Okay, thank you.
And the pen has walked away, so.
Bad throw.
Speaking of
Sorry.
litigation, if we stab somebody with a pen.
I know a good attorney if you need work.
Just a wrist injury from that.
You had shared some information and I didn't understand it all, so I would like to have some clarification. As we can clearly see, turbines are getting bigger.
Yeah.
And as I've traveled across the country the last 25 years, I've seen smaller blades, I've seen big ones,
Yep,
I've followed them down the road. They're getting bigger.
yes. So,
Talk to me about that concept.
so turbine heights are getting bigger primarily because the larger the turbine, the more power produced, like Judy said. Most of this height increase comes from the blades, not so much the hub height, except that we need to have clearance from the ground. So the blades are increasing in length in order to reach higher wind speeds and have more power per rotation. The nacelle or the motor itself has also had some adjustments. It's bigger, it's more powerful. And this has resulted in an increase from typically like 1.7 megawatts to 2.5 megawatts per turbine to now more like 4.5 to 5 megawatts per turbine. So this means, and what I think is important to consider from a planning and zoning perspective, if you have a wind company that's building a 200 megawatt wind farm, if they're doing 2 megawatts per turbine, it's 100 turbines. If they're doing 4 megawatts per turbine, it's 50 turbines. So, and a company will not exceed that once they have their position with the queue for the grid. So they'll put in for a nameplate capacity of a certain amount of megawatts. You cannot exceed that capacity. So it allows for more particular spacing of the turbines when you can do fewer to reach the same amount of power. And it allows for better selection of turbines and the products.
Fewer turbines, but they would be taller, more
They-
visible.
They would be more visible, yep, and to the sound comment, I mean, truthfully though, we're talking like 450 to 550. At that height, the 100 feet, you know, depending on where you're at on the horizon, it's not that significant of a view shed change. They're still
I would
high.
caution you
Yeah,
from
you
the
still see them everywhere.
Whoa,
so.
whoa. From the previous conversation, be sure what you talk about when you talk about inconvenience and significance.
Okay,
I
so
found
yeah,
that out.
it is subjective, it is, and there have been, there were attempts to make a visual simulator of turbine heights, that demonstrated that most people can't tell, but it is subjective, so I
Well,
guess.
They're taller, so they're gonna be more visible, obviously. Yeah.
But.
Okay, but I wanted to have some clarification on why they're getting taller.
So I have a question. Newer, I see in this data, 2022. This is a new project that just went on online, the Haystack Project, 2022. They opted to go with turbine total height of 439 feet. So we still have projects that are new, going online new, utilizing smaller turbines, is that correct?
So I don't know specifically about that one.
Yeah, because it's not your project, I understand that, but generally, you're in the industry, you would be able to confirm that that fact is actually true,
No,
correct?
I would not confirm the fact. I
Okay,
think it's
well-
possible that wind farm was permitted at a time when they procured turbines that were that tall. So the permit time doesn't mean, you know, if they build in between the permit and that time, they might have locked in a turbine make and model. And, you know, so they were going with what they selected at time of permitting, and they opted not to change that. That's a possibility.
Well, I mean, but the same project also put in 574 feet tall turbines, so they opted to do both. I would imagine that they secured those permits at the exact same time. I'm not gonna require you to answer that by any stretch of the imagination. My point is per the United States Wind Turbine Database, new projects are still utilizing smaller turbines. And just because you have the ability and technology is allowing these things to grow exponentially larger, doesn't mean that we have to have them in Lincoln County from a visual blight standpoint, a sound standpoint, because there is correlation to increased sound the taller that they get as well. I understand that larger turbines can produce more power, and that if you have larger turbines, you don't necessarily need as many turbines for a project. But this is something that I think that we should be weighing, because smokestacks at 500 feet can be seen darn near anywhere in Lincoln County. You go 600 feet, guess what? You're gonna be, yes, seeing turbines from any particular spot in Lincoln County.
I'm not doubting they're visible. can I make a clarification on the
I don't-
US? So,
I don't need a clarification.
well, on.
Other commissioners may, but.
On the USGS wind turbine database, which I have looked at as well, sometimes it can be difficult to tell phases of a project. So just because Haystack has multiple different types of turbines, doesn't mean the ones that you're seeing that are 400-something feet came exactly the same time as the 500-plus foot ones. So that's not always clear from that database. You'd have to look at that particular project and its permit and what phases were permitted when. Yes, the turbine heights are not customizable in the sense that it's not so easy to say like, okay, so now we want this make and model, which is perfect for this area, most competitive pricing, and we have to have it this height. It just exempts some of the older models that are gonna be phased out anyway, when you put a height restriction on. So, and to the sound point, yes, with a larger turbine, there can be higher decibels. That is going to be impacted by your decibel requirement. So, you know, you don't need to set turbines back or regulate on height. Regulate on decibels, and then we set the turbines accordingly.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that for me, and, yeah, the only reason I bring that up is it's nice for those consultants, Marvin or Keith, whoever he is, to have that information.
Correct. Keith, it is Keith, right?
It is Keith Marvin.
I think. Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much for that
you.
clarification. I'm sorry if I upset you. That was not my intent.
So Judy, how do we get the ball rolling on this to incorporate Keith?
It's already started.
It's begun.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Some of this information that Commissioner Bruns has, looked at, some of it that I've looked at, some that, you guys have all looked at. If you have any information that you wanna get to Keith, get it to me, I'll get it directly to Keith, he can take a look at it. He's probably okay with me handing out his email too, if you wanna talk to him one-on-one. There's no reason for you not to.
This may also allow time for the University of Nebraska and that other organization that we had discussed to utilize.
Get their ball
Yeah,
rolling,
get their ball
yep.
rolling.
So, you just a minute, I'll get right to you, but we have until March 1st, or sometime in March, I'm gonna say sometime around the first part of March, we'll know what that progress is from the consulting firm. If we're not there, one option would be to increase or extend the moratorium.
Yeah, it's not going to be done before the moratorium ends,
Okay.
so.
So there we are, and that's, that would certainly would be pleasing to most of the residents of Lincoln County, would be my thought. Joe,
Well-
you had a question?
I just wanted to clarify that this also, the same process would make sense to me that this be happening at the same time with our large-scale solar farms. I just wanted to clarify that it was.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and we've concentrated on wind pretty heavily, but are there any things different in what we talked about last week on solar that any of you have had thoughts on?
I did fly back from Arizona, going and coming, and both daytime flights, and was able to actually see a number of these. You know, that's a pretty prime area down there from the air. Also took some day trips out of Phoenix up north to the Flagstaff area, different areas, and got to see them from the ground. And although we have a tendency to have a little bit flatter terrain out here, it was amazing that you could be within 2 or 3 miles of them in that neck of the woods and not know they were there. Here, we're gonna probably see them a little further because of terrain.
Okay, one other question we had last week involved an initial deposit for decommissioning. And we'd asked Tanner, Dara, to provide some information. Would you come forward, please? I think this was something that was very pertinent to all of us in regards to how that should be structured. It was suggested that you had input in that regard.
Yes, Tanner Patera with Hub International, the county's current insurance broker, live here in North Platte. So I personally have never handled a decommissioning bond, but our bonding team out of Lincoln has 50+ of these on the books. So this is a tool. I mean, when we go forward with these projects, we want to obviously understand what the future impact is, because these projects have a lifespan. So eventually, the turbines wear out, solar panels wear out. What do we do to reclaim the land to put it back where it was? So you can use different tools to guarantee that there will be money to be paid, because lots of these companies do go out of business. I mean, there's nothing to be said that the company that starts the project will still be in business. And how do we procure or cover the costs to remove the access roads, the pads, the turbines, et cetera? So you can do multiple different things, like you said, with the letter of credit. I mean, a personal note that's built into the project, or you can do, I mean, basically an energy bond, which are used in multiple different facets when it comes to oil, gas, et cetera. I'll hand out these, but these are just kind of some really good articles that just kind of explain the process and what they're for. But typically, the entity, the government, requires the bond to be held by the project owner. The county is the obligee. So if for some odd reason, when the project is done, that the project owner refuses or is unable to remove it, you can call the bond to pay another contractor to remove the project. So it typically is a cost the contractor or the project owner will incur. And there's really no lifespan, and they can be a little pricier because you just don't know how long these are gonna last. Typically, it's a 20 to 30-year lifespan potentially that the bond has to be renewed for. The project owner typically, from what I understand, it depends on the project owners and the operators, business practices, credit to what the cost is. I work with a large energy contractor that does the front end stuff, but they aren't the project owner, they're typically a contractor setting up the solar farms. But the costs will run on average 1% to 2% of the project, just kind of like a performance bond cost does.
Now, the 1% to 2% is, what is?
1% to 2% so if it's a $300 million project to remove the cost, so the bond is typically the bond will be, 10%.
3 to 7 million.
Yeah. It just depends on, the bond is based on what the projected cost is to decommission. It's not gonna be the cost to set up.
Do we know what a decommissioning cost is per unit?
And that I don't.
You would have to ascertain that when the project was.
Part of the bid process, I would think you could put that in there as what that is. And also in the bid process, you need to probably let the contractors and the project owners know that this cost, is a potential cost you're going to require, because they're gonna pass through the cost.
Tanner, the underwriting portion, you've got FDIC, you've got SIPC, you've got these various federally funded agencies are supported. What about bonds? How do you know, what's that bonding market look like? How do you know that you're contracting with a big enough bonding company that
You wanna
they're gonna be
use,
in business?
you wanna use an A++ or an A+ rated surety company, just kinda like you wanna do with your own personal insurance, because you wanna make sure that the surety is going to be around. Typically, from what I understand, like I said, this is not my bond team gave me a lot of information, and I can go back to the specific questions, but typically these decommissioning bonds can be renewed annually. So the company is going to request financials and updated financials from the project owner to keep the bond moving forward.
What I'm just trying to drive home the point is, you would make sure, similar to having a life insurance contract.
Yep.
That when, Kansas City Life, they're still in business, but bad example, but let's say they go broke. Somebody's there to pick up all that contractual obligation for Kansas City Life.
Yep. No,
That was gonna be my question, is if we had a bond and the company went bankrupt or whatever happened, is that bond still valid?
That's what the bond is there for if the company doesn't come through. So it's no different. Bonding is, hey, we hire a contractor. Typically, your bonds are gonna be performance bonds. That's what most people understand, is a contractor comes in and we bond them to do the project, but they fail to perform. The project owner can call the bond to pay another contractor to fulfill the job.
Well, I think we understand that, but my point is not that. My point is the bonding company that you contract with.
Happens
Is
if
there
the
a
bonding.
backstop? If the bonding company fails, just like a bank fails, just like an insurance company fails.
Yep, and that's
all I'm getting at.
Yeah, and with that stuff moving forward, honestly, there's no guarantee a company will be around, but you wanna make sure that, you guys, also, the county isn't the person that procures the bond, it would be the company, and you would wanna make sure that company is using a proper
A or A+ rated.
A+ rated,
Joe, please.
2 points. One, the performance and payment bond or performance bond that Tanner is referring to is typical in the construction industry. That doesn't even bother me, because that's a short-term thing. Construction, the guy gets it built, everything that's built the way it's supposed to be goes away. I'm not concerned about that. We're concerned about a decommissioning bond. And it's my understanding that larger companies such as this may sell to a subsidiary, it might be an offshore subsidiary. People do strange things for money in this country, believe it or not. Might be a tax consequence. They could go bankrupt. There's any number of reasons that the original owner no longer owns it. Most bonds that I'm familiar with, you're talking about, has a specific entity on that bond. We gotta make sure that that's not the case here. The chances are probably pretty good when this is time to decommission. That original company doesn't even exist. Company XYZ might exist, whatever. So we need to make sure of that. And when we talk about, it's a big enough company to handle it, then I didn't think most insurance companies would be going broke, but look at some of the big catastrophes we've had over the last 4 or 5 years. You're aware of some big guns that say, we're bankrupt. So it's gonna certainly take some research, and I think that would behoove us probably to even spend a couple of bucks if we need to on a legal counsel if we get to that point. It's beyond my comprehension, let me put it that way.
In the interim, let's have Keith weigh in as we do the
Yeah.
plan, so.
What more, should we have Tanner explore this more with his team that's specifically involved?
I can
with
get
this?
some data on those, all those questions which are valid on how contractually you transfer it to the new entity to carry the bond.
I'd want that information. I'd also want to know if whether or not we as the county can dictate which company is used for the bonding.
Yeah, I don't think
You
I
can
want,
dictate rating, but I don't think you can dictate, hey, you have to use Travelers.
Well, I'm fine with dictating rating because you get some subpar companies out there that offer things at a discount.
Because I've seen lots of contracts, like, I know contracts with my energy contractor, they have to use an A-rated surety company to provide just a performance bond, so I don't see why you couldn't require that on a decommissioning bond.
My other point was going to be that there's nobody says that we have to use a bond. We can certainly have an escrow account up front with, some kind of an escalator or something too that we might look at, because until cash goes away, you can still spend cash, and we get the interest off that money.
Tyler, you had a comment last week in regards to that cash, that if the company went bankrupt, that money is,
Bankruptcy trustee's gonna take that in a heartbeat.
The what?
If we're requiring companies to put money in escrow up front, that's gonna be escrowed in their name. It's not gonna be Lincoln County's money. It's only there to guarantee performance under the conditional use permit. If the company that posts that money in escrow enters into bankruptcy, the bankruptcy trustee is going to take that money. It's going to disappear. It will not be here. That's the problem with cash. You can spend it wherever you want, but whoever has it owns it, and it won't be us.
and
So
that,
cash is not the best insurance policy.
That's the premise for having a bond. That's why bonds exist.
okay,
Thank you for clarifying that.
okay.
So I will
I
follow
guess
up.
you have your,
Homework, yep.
your homework to do, don't you?
Do you want me to just, I'm happy to come back to another work session, or would you just like me to distribute it via
I'd
email?
like you to distribute it, make sure our planning and zoning people are involved.
Yep.
And our consultant that we've already retained.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
And get us that
'Cause
information, if
'cause
we
want
decide
him
we
to have
need,
everything, so he can.
and then if we
compile it.
decide to have you come back, we can do that.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to come. And I mean, and if we're gonna get really into the weeds and I come back, I would get my bonding team on the phone that has handled dozens of these, just to get through the nuances. Mine was just a general conversation. When Tammy reached out, I just wanted to have enough information so we can find what direction you guys want me to go and find you the answer. That's one nice thing about being with Hub is I have a team that does these things, and we do them. I mean, regionally, we have 450 plus on the books, but nationally, we'll have hundreds, and if we need to really get in the weeds, we'll be able to find a decommissioning bond for a wind project,
Okay.
if that's the route we want to
Yeah,
go.
we want to be methodical about this. We don't want to be big government, heavy hammer.
And,
Yeah.
and we've got time to do it, so let's make
Yeah.
sure we get it right. Thank you for your work on that, Tanner.
Yep.
We'll be looking to hear from you,
Here's some general
please.
ones to read if you want to read. Hand those out, Becky. Any other things?
No, thank you.
Okay.
We do have some information from the road department. Did you all see what Jason had put together here?
Somewhere when they do it. Jason Schultz, Lincoln County Highway Superintendent. Yeah, and I just did a quick draft of some of the language that I'd done, I guess, a review on quite a few different, other counties, not only Nebraska, but also surrounding states too, and just, some of the language as far as what they have in there as far as roads goes, so. Just kind of some draft language to get the ball rolling on thoughts when we start to put it together, but, you know, maybe some of this too, Keith will have in some of his as well.
Yeah.
So Jason, on the form that you gave us, the black print is what's already in the
Yes, yep.
language, and then the blue is what
Yeah.
you would like to add?
Yep, blue is
Thank
just my comments and kind of some draft language that I put in there for discussion and consideration going forward for when we finalize things, so.
And this is not only repairing the roads to their previous condition, but maintaining them during the process, is that not correct?
Yeah, and there's even, some language as far as road improvements as well. So if they're gonna be utilizing roads that are maybe unimproved roads, or maybe just aren't necessarily, they're just a trail road or something like that, it's improving the roads. If it's gonna be having that much traffic on it and for the foreseeable future, then there are some other jurisdictions out there that are requiring road improvements as well, so.
Okay.
So just food for thought for everybody, I guess.
Is this some information that our consultant should have?
Absolutely.
We've
Can-
dealt with it in the past several times, so I'll be interested to see what he has for additional language.
Can we get that to
Yep.
him? How do we do that?
I can get it over to Judy, or I have Keith's email as well, but.
Okay,
Yep.
super.
I'll make sure they have it too.
Okay, super. Thank you for your work on that.
Yep.
What other bits of homework did we send out last week that I haven't touched on yet?
We had maps, we had roads, we had, turbine height for Joe's question. Bonding, I think that was it.
Judy, are any members of your planning commission, do you have anything that you'd like to add right at this moment? Any of this, you folks?
Just one thing, I know most of you guys have visited the wind farm out at Pete's, Colorado in that area. For reference, those towers are between 60 and 74 meters tall. So what we're looking at is double that.
Okay, thank you. Judy, do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. I think, we covered everything that we talked about last time. And I think if we can get all that information to Keith, and, I mean, we can keep having conversations as much as you want and keep researching, but, I think if we give it to our consultant and let him know what we think, it's probably the best way to go.
Okay, what sorts of information do we want to have brought before us next week?
My opinion, Mr. Chairman, if we're handing this off to our consultants, other than the distribution of the bonding information, I don't need any additional workshop time. I would hand this off and allow them to do the research and put something together for us to consider.
And we can always resume our work sessions. And the November 6th was not set in stone, was it not?
It was set in stone per my motion, but on November 6th, we can have it on the agenda that we are officially turning it over to the consultants. I mean, that's a simple action that can be taken on November
Okay.
6th.
Do you agree, Tyler? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I know you're all gonna be pretty upset we don't have to have several more of these work sessions. We got a lot accomplished. And I made this comment last week, I knew we could. Knew we could. We really reached out to some folks for some key information. And I appreciate all of that information. And I applaud you folks from the planning commission, you folks for being here with us. I applaud you for that. I appreciate all of the information that we have received. Because our intent is to not only do what's right, but follow the wishes of people in Lincoln County. That's what our attempt is going to be. Anything else from the board?
Judy, is this your map? Is this your map?
Yes.
I'll give it back to you, I did.
Joe, do you have anything else to bring up at this work session?
I took a picture.
Okay.
You have everything to send to
I do
Keith?
not, thank you very much.
Kent, do you have anything more to add at this work session?
Well, no, not at the work session. I forgot on the pump and dump thing, I forgot to mention that Michaela and I were supposed to follow up with that, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Michaela, but we're all here, so I'll just say, I think we should just submit a formal request to the city to recognize that we are allowed to put something, if not permanent, semi-permanent, in the while we're in the process of determining if a second well fixes this. Do you agree? I haven't had a chance to talk to you today.
I did have conversation with our building and ground department, and he was gonna consult over with the city.
Okay, so maybe in an
And-
informal fashion, find out.
Yeah, I
some
think
feedback.
maybe
That's great.
informal fashion, and I'll make sure we have some feedback for next week's
That's
meeting.
great, that's great.
Okay.
They've got it in Lane's office.
Right, in Lane's
I
office.
checked this morning,
Correct.
we're not having a dump. Temperatures are down, so.
Yeah, but I'm sorry,
No,
Kent,
that's okay.
I didn't have time to follow
Not a
up with
problem.
you yet,
No.
so.
Chris?
Booker's on it.
Good.
And what would you like to add?
I have nothing to add.
We've accomplished a lot. Becky, do you have anything else to bring before us? Tammy?
No, I do not.
Okay.
For you to sign.
Is there any other business come before the board?